When I was in high school, I had a teacher who used to teach us about good and bad behavior. You know, this kind of lessons in which he taught us how we should behave in front of other people. So I remember that one day he was giving us his lesson about sweating. And I remember that my best friend gave his opinion. He said, "Actually, teacher, I don't think that a person who uses swear words shows a lack of education, because, believe me, it had happened to me that I met someone and that person is more impolite than the one who uses swear words." How do you think my teacher reacted? He was really angry and he started yelling at my friend and he asked him to leave the class. But the problem here is that my teacher is not the only one. In plenty of schools, swearing is forbidden, and it is because they relate swearing with impoliteness and rudeness. Nevertheless, schools are just seeing one part of the story, because swearing is part of our language and is highly related with honesty, and it depends always in the communication and the relationships between the speakers. So, my name is Vanessa Marin, and I highly believe that swear words should not be forbidden in schools. First of all, swearing is a type of linguistic behavior who also shapes our personality and our perspective of the world. Our mother tongue creates what we are because it affects one's perspective of the world. So, call for me is not the same from a person who speaks English. It is really different. And this is just because, as a speaker from Tecto says, the language that you speak shapes the way you think. So if swearing is also part of our language, it shapes our personality either. Now, in the schools, we can teach and we can learn just because we have language. Language is the most essential tool in the schools. So, what we are going to forbid swearing, it is part of our language, and we use language all the time in the schools. It is not coherence. So for this reason, it should not be forbidden because it can also shape what we are. Now, swearing seems to be related with honesty, which can encourage teachers and students to develop better relationships. Let me ask you something. I don't know if this happened to you, but you're walking and someone scares you, and probably the first thing you're going to say is, "Oh my fucking God." And this is because what you're expressing is an spontaneous emotion. As many authors says, the spontaneous use of profanity is usually the unfiltered, genuine expression of emotions. So you're expressing what you really feel. So this swear word can help you to communicate what you're really feeling in just one word, without using a lot of words. Now, another important aspect is that, I don't know if this happens to you either, but you meet someone and that person is really polite with you, but then when you see that person in another occasion, you say like, "But this is not a person I met before. You're really different." And this is because maybe they were faking what they really are. So if teachers and students use swear words in schools, they're going to express themselves as they really are. They're not going to be the polite people. So this can help them to have meaningful relationships because they're going to be honest with each other. Now, I know that you might thinking, wait, but if we allow swear words in schools, teachers and students are going to use this as an excuse to promote impoliteness and rudeness and bullying. But wait, because swearing can be polite and impolite, and it depends always in the communication context and the relationship between the speakers. So sweating is impolite when we use it to offend people, to make them feel bad. But it is polite when we use it to promote social harmony as in faith building. Now, another important aspect is that people learn to judge when, where, and with whom it is appropriate to swear, or where swearing will be offensive. So, students and teachers are going to be able to identify, just by the context and the relationship between the speakers, when swearing is going to be offensive. And of course, they can do something about that. They can tell a teacher, in the case of the students, or a teacher can tell someone who can help that teacher, because it depends on the communication context. To sum up, as we have seen, swearing is an important part of our language, who also shapes what we are and what we think. And it is highly related with honesty, because we can be what we really are. We can express as we do normally. And it happens all the time in a communication context, in a relationship between the speakers. So students and teachers are going to be able to identify when it's trying to be impolite. Finally, if we take off a lot of stereotypes, which seems to make some people feel bad just because the way they speak, we are going to enjoy what our language gave us, because every word is important and is necessary, but every word shapes what we are. So we should be really happy to have our language, and for this reason we should not forbid sweating in schools. Thank you.